Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. That means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Thanks for hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We've got a lot to get to. It's What If Wednesday. Can't imagine where y'all are going to go with that, huh? But if you got some what ifs, you can hit me up on Twitter at HuntPalmer88. We'll take him out of the Bayou Ford chat on YouTube as well. Got to get to SEC football power rankings. Brandin Cooks and the Saints have parted ways. I want to talk about the money aspect of this LSU football coaching search and what makes sense and where you need to put your funds. And does it make sense to go chase Lane Kiffin, or do you need to hire a very young person and maybe pay him less? Do you need to do what the governor said? There's a lot of financial aspects into this, and I want to talk about that in hour number 2. So we got lots to do. Let's crank it up. Our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Okay, y'all, I'll be real with you. The SEC coaches teleconference on every Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. is a snooze fest. It is probably the most boring portion of my entire week. No one ever says anything. It's cliches. It's quick. It's coach speak. It's boring. However, Lane Kiffin just met with the media on the teleconference, and it was not boring because it was a horde of reporters hurling tomatoes at him, and essentially he just stood there and wore them all. Like, it was wild to listen to. We've got the cuts. We're going to get into them, and I'm going to give you kind of my thoughts on everything that went into this teleconference. It was about 13 minutes, so let's get into it. The first question, and keep in mind for our perspective, we just got these cut as fast as we possibly could because it just happened. I don't know which of these have the questions in them, so I'll set the question up. Sometimes I'll set it up and the question will follow. We don't have that. I don't know yet which ones have the questions in them, so bear with me if we repeat. But the first thing we'll talk about is has Ole Miss asked him for clarity on his situation moving forward?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on what I've done for 6 years, which isn't talk about other jobs and that situation. And Keith and I've seen him twice already today. Keith and I have a great relationship. We communicate daily on a lot of things, and I love it here. And it's been amazing. And we're in a season that's the greatest run in the history of Ole Miss at this point. So I think it's really exciting. I think Saturday night was amazing. So I'm just living in the moment, and our players are too. I see their joy about the practice season, where they're at, and have so much on the line. It's just awesome to be a part of.
So that's the Kiffin's family line. I'm not talking about other jobs. I love it here. Our players are doing awesome. That's what he has stuck with instead of answering all the questions that he's been asked. But questions were going to keep coming, and they did. So do you plan to coach the Egg Bowl next week?
Yeah, Lane, do you expect to coach next week as you're preparing for this game?
Do you know something I don't know?
I'm asking you.
Do I expect to coach next week? Why would I not expect to coach next week? I expected to coach in Florida too. So I don't even understand the question how I would not expect to coach next week. Why would I be at work?
Is there any reason you wouldn't see yourself, any situation in which you wouldn't think you'd be coaching this team moving forward beyond next week?
No, I don't. We're game planning. We just practice. I don't even understand how that would happen. So you must be missing something.
That's Lane losing the media savvy there. Like, you don't need to talk. Everyone knows what's going on. You don't need to talk down. You don't need to just make things up. If you want to not answer the question, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to answer any of these questions. But don't create a bigger issue than already exists, and that's kind of what you do there when you act exacerbated, criticize the question, say, I don't even know what the question is. That's not a great look from Lane there. You move on. This is number 7, Jordan. Maybe coaching somewhere else before the postseason starts.
Is there a possibility you could take another job before the postseason?
I'm not speaking on other jobs.
Not speaking on other jobs. That's a fine answer. That's perfectly fine. Here's an interesting question that I did not see coming, but y'all may have saw the storm on Twitter last night. There was a political commentator that said that the governor's putting his nose into LSU's coaching business. He was on the phone with Lane Kiffin for 2 hours, and Matt Moscona, who's here, said that didn't happen. I was in the event last night with the client, and the governor said, I'd just like a new coach by Christmas, and Matt Moscona knows more. He's here. You can talk to him as a joke. He did not say I was on the phone for Lane Kiffin with 2 hours, but the question was asked from Neil McCready of the Ole Miss 24/7 site. Did you talk to the governor?
Lane, there are conflicting reports. I was going to give you a chance to set the record straight that you spoke with the governor of Louisiana here pretty recently. Did that or did that not happen?
Yeah, I wouldn't comment on that either way, so I'm not.
Look, man, that seems like a really easy no to me if you didn't talk to the governor of Louisiana. I can't see a situation where Lane Kiffin's talking to the governor of Louisiana, so it just seems like an easy no if he hadn't spoken to the governor. I don't know if he's spoken to the governor or not. It would make sense to me if the governor is a public figure, has interjected himself into LSU's athletic program in the last 3 weeks. If you're considering taking that job, which we all know that he is, it would make sense that you might want to talk to the governor and say, hey, are you going to stay out of my way if I come over there? Are you going to try to fire the athletic director if we lose a game and you don't like my contract? Like, that's a reasonable conversation that he could have had. I don't know if that conversation was had or not, but that just felt like a really easy no for Kiffin that he didn't take. Wilson Alexander then jumped in and said, okay, well, what about the trips to Gainesville and Baton Rouge?
Lane, what did your family learn on its trips to Gainesville and Baton Rouge that could be informative as you make a decision?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not getting on any speculation or stories of things having to do with other jobs. I've said that about 10 times, but I understand. I got to ask him.
Fine answer. Completely fine. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to send your family to those two places. Perfectly reasonable thing not to answer the questions. So that's kind of going through all the deflection that Lane Kiffin did, even though I didn't like the indignation with the, are you sure you're going to coach the Egg Bowl? Just say, yeah, I'm going to coach the Egg Bowl. So this is where there's a little bit more depth to the answers at the end. This is what I was building toward. And this is, I think, the most important factor in all of this surrounding Lane Kiffin. The number one factor in this entire situation, I believe, to be the calendar. If Ole Miss was 8-4 right now, I believe Lane Kiffin would already be in agreement with one of these two jobs and he would be gone after the Egg Bowl. But they're not. They're in the playoff. Even if they lose to Mississippi State, I think they're in the playoff. I can come up with a scenario where they're not, but I think they're in the playoff. That's hard to walk away from. I told you yesterday on the show, that is the crux of this entire thing. I think he thinks Florida and LSU are both better jobs than Ole Miss. I will hear your argument if you think his situation in Oxford is better than the one in Florida. I will hear your argument if you say that LSU's political situation and their funds and tied up in Brian Kelly, all that's not very attractive. Like, you can absolutely debate whether or not each situation is better. I think Lane Kiffin thinks Florida and LSU are both better than Ole Miss. That's my opinion. And I think that the calendar is causing this issue. So the question was asked to him, was this inevitable that a coach with a team in the playoff was going to be facing questions, had nothing to do with football because he might jump jobs? And this is what Lane Kiffin had to say. He finally opened up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if a team wanted a playoff coach, this was bound to happen. This is really, I'm just looking at it as outside. I'm not even talking about myself. I'm just looking at it as like you guys are, like, there's a systematical problem. And it used to be players were in it, and they still are a little bit with the portal timing and playoffs and all those things. And look at the Penn State quarterback a year ago and, you know, not letting him play and him having to go in. And I think I would hope everybody in that situation was like, man, that's a systematical issue, calendar issue. So yeah, the subject that you're referring to is probably, until something changes, going to be an issue for years.
That, to me, is a real answer, and it makes a lot of sense. I don't think anyone in Oxford, Baton Rouge, Gainesville, or nationally thinks this is a good thing for the sport. That a coach who is in the middle of potentially the greatest season in the history of the school, who is weighing other options professionally, has to take that out on his players, his assistant coaches, his fan base, right here smack in the middle of it. Used to be a time where, hey, coach might get approached for a job, an offensive coordinator somewhere. Bo Pelini took the Nebraska job before coaching against Ohio State. But that's not a huge problem for the sport because signing day wasn't until February. He could put a staff together in January, hit the ground running after an early January bowl game for the national championship in a game he wanted to coach in, and you just move on with your life. He can't move on in his heart because he's got a team he'd really like to coach, I think. And that, I think, was a genuine answer. And we'll play this by talking about this process and whether or not it's flattering to be considered for Florida, who's won 2 national championships in the last 20 years and has won 4, LSU, who's got 3 national championships in the last 20-plus years. Is it flattering to be considered by those teams, or is it overwhelming as you try to coach your team? This is what Lane said.
Doesn't feel good on this call. Somehow it got spun really negatively. I said it before. If programs want your coach, okay, that should be looked at as an amazing thing and a great thing by your fans. So if programs want your coach because you're 10-1 and whatever, we've run 3 10-win seasons in a row, which has never been done at Ole Miss before. Is that a good thing that other programs want your coach because your program's experienced success it's never had? Or would you rather be 5-6 or 6-5 or something right now and no one wants your coach? I would look at it from that perspective.
And he just misses the mark there. It's just a bad answer for his current situation. It just is. You can't expect Ole Miss fans to just go, man, I'm so happy we're 10-1 and we're in the best situation we've ever been in. And the entire thing's been blown up and nobody is asking him about the team. And all the players are asking what he's doing. And all the coaches are asking what he's doing. And all the fans are asking what he's doing. And we're supposed to just sit back and go, well, we're 10-1. We should just be happy with that. No, no one in a power 4 position. Yeah, I'm sure Tulane is thrilled to be where they are, and maybe Ole Miss wants our coach, but we might make the playoff because that's just as good as Tulane can do. But like Ole Miss is not just going to sit there and go, well, good thing our coach is good and everybody else wants him and he might leave in the middle of a playoff run in the greatest season in history. We'll just sit there and be happy with it. Like, that's not realistic. It's not real life. And he, again, does not have to answer any of these questions. He could sit there, and it wouldn't be comfortable, but he could take that and say, is it flattering or is it overwhelming? And go, yeah, I'm just focused on what I'm doing here, and we're getting ready for Mississippi State. And then just stop. But instead, he goes on the attack of Ole Miss's fans. He attacks their fans. And all I'm saying from this seat right here is, man, it just doesn't appear to me like he's trying to be simpatico with Ole Miss at all. I think he wants to coach this team through the playoffs and then leave. But it's not going to be an option. And that he continues he shows restraint and shows restraint and shows restraint, and then he just loses it. I'm not going to answer questions about other jobs. I'm not going to answer questions about other jobs. I'm not going to answer questions about other jobs. But, I mean, look at this. I mean, you should be happy that I got you where I am right now. You should be thrilled that somebody wants your coach. You could be 5-6. Like, that's not realistic, Lane. Come on, man. And, like, this might be the coach of my alma mater in a couple of weeks. And trust me, he puts that purple and gold visor on, I'm all for it. I just pulled a 180. I didn't like Brian Kelly when he was at Ole Miss. I've always kind of liked Lane, but I can criticize his answers in this setting. This is not, like, something that he couldn't have expected. He knew on the off week when there's not a game to prepare for where he's got to sit in front of a telephone for 10 minutes to any media that want to push the button, he's going to get questions about this time and time and time again, and he just couldn't pull back. And to put a bow on this, that answer to me, where he says, y'all should just be happy that you're 10-1 and live in the moment, that's adversarial to me. That is antagonizing to me. If he wants to leave for LSU or Florida, that is absolutely his right, for sure. You think that's a better gig? Go take it. Lots of money? Awesome. But you don't need to tell the Ole Miss fans, like, just sit down and be quiet. I got you here. Be happy. This is great. Don't worry about all the other stuff that's going on, the entirety of the college football news cycle. Don't pay attention to any of that. It's cool. It's just not reality. And that's one of the issues with Lane is that sometimes he just does not read the room very well. And, like, none of this that I'm talking about, y'all know where I come from. You know where I sit. You know where my allegiance is. I hope LSU does hire Lane Kiffin because I think he's a great coach. But I'm here to analyze the situation, and that's all it is right now is a situation, and I just don't know that he handled that very well. when he knew it was coming. So my thoughts, I'm sure we'll get some more as we continue to move forward. We're going to take a time out when we come back. Graham Hall, who covers Florida, going to give me his thoughts from Gainesville because we went to Oxford on Monday. You've gotten our thoughts from here in Baton Rouge. You're probably around here in Louisiana if you're listening to this show. What are they thinking in Gainesville at this point? We'll talk to Graham Hall next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com is that website. Look, renewal time is just about here if you're a January commercial insurance renewal. There's still a little bit of time to get a second set of eyes on that for renewal. If you're a little bit nervous about what that number might look like or you're not sure what your options may be, you're looking for a second opinion, let the Highland Insurance Group audit your program, understand what your risks are, what your risk tolerance is, and put together a program that's tailored to you. They're an independent broker, means they've got contract with dozens of different carriers. They can make sure that you're placed at the right price for the right coverage for your business. They've got clients in all kinds of lines of work, and they're happy to help you with that. So if you've got a January renewal, December 17th is not a good time to start looking at that. Right now, it's November 19th. Give Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group a call and let them get a second set of eyes on that January renewal. They're online at highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. On Monday, we chatted with Michael Katz, who covers Ole Miss. You certainly heard our perspective on this circus in the Southeastern Conference. Let's go to Gainesville and get the Florida perspective of it from Graham Hall, covers Florida for the 24/7 Sports Network. Graham, thanks for the time. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's my pleasure to be here and talk all things Florida, coaching search, Lane Kiffin, you name it. It's always a pleasure, guys.
Look, it's what's the energy in Gainesville right now? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, the majority of the focus is on the coaching search rather than paying attention to back-to-back rivalry games for Florida to end the season. Sitting here at 3-7, most people have turned towards the future, from the fans to, I think you could say, some with the players as well, the season not going the way they wanted. And I think that there's a little bit of anxiety regarding what Lane Kiffin's decision could be. Obviously, the back-to-back visits from members of his family to Gainesville first on Sunday and then Baton Rouge on Monday. I think that Florida the fan base at least, is a little bit anxious about what is going to happen because LSU has the resources. It's a coveted job, just like you could make a case for the University of Florida being, but LSU has obviously been to the mountaintop more recently than Florida has. The Gators haven't won a championship since 2008. And this is a critical hire for Florida's administration. You can live with Lane Kiffin staying in Oxford. It doesn't mean you necessarily failed. You could have offered him everything he wanted, and he just chose to stay in a place where he has them on the precipice of making the college football playoff and potentially going 11-1 if they can beat Mississippi State next week, which would be one of the best seasons in program history up there in Oxford. But you can't live with him going to LSU. That would be seen by Florida's athletic department as a failure in the eyes of many Florida fans. And I don't know how accurate that would be to gauge it because, quite frankly, they're two different programs with different athletic departments and resources. But Florida fans are so invested in landing Lane Kiffin that almost anyone but him being the next head coach in Gainesville would be perceived as a failure. So it is a very interesting time right now. There's some anxiety coupled with a good bit of confidence from those within the program. We haven't heard anything to suggest that Florida's athletic department feels uneasy about their pursuit of Lane Kiffin. They have talked with people in his camp about making sure that he has the NIL resources that he needs. He's obviously familiar with Gainesville, having gone on his first date with his ex-wife, Layla, at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, is a guy who is familiar with the state of Florida. His son is a fan of the Gators. I think people have seen those photos on social media of him rocking Florida gear, even when his dad has been the coach at Ole Miss. So fans are kind of just in a holding pattern right now, waiting to see how this thing shakes out. And everyone is kind of waiting for Lane Kiffin to make his mind up, which, as everyone knows who has followed Lane Kiffin, that could change daily, which makes for a really riveting situation right now.
Look, from the LSU perspective, LSU and Florida were in the same hiring market 4 years ago. The time before that, when Ed Ogeron was hired, LSU and Texas were kind of going head-to-head. Was there a reaction in Gainesville when Brian Kelly was fired, and did that do anything to the confidence level or the apprehension in terms of who the Gators might get as compared to LSU?
I think Florida fans, just like a lot of LSU fans, saw that Brian Kelly and LSU was just not a match made in heaven like many people thought it was going to be 4 years ago. I think Florida fans felt a little bit better when they, quite frankly, saw the discord and some of the hiccups, I guess I could say, that have happened in the post-Brian Kelly firing, from the governor to some of the comments made, the parting of ways with the athletic director, Scott Woodward, to some of the comments made about the coaching market. I think Florida fans felt better about some of the statements that were made and not really having the governor's influence weighing into this process whatsoever. Now, things have changed in the past 48 hours, I think, with representatives of Kiffin's family going to Baton Rouge, thinking that they're going to make probably a more lucrative contract offer to Lane Kiffin than Florida would. Not that it's going to be significant, but I do think you could see LSU have a little bit stronger of a financial offer. Most Florida fans have told themselves that Lane Kiffin has made his money. It's not going to come down to financials for him necessarily. It's about where he thinks he can win at the highest level and be able to balance that work-life, quite frankly, balance that he is looking for. He wants some privacy. He wants to be able to do hot yoga. He wants to go out in public and not be bothered. He wants to do things his way, whether that's limiting speaking tours, not really being that spokesman on the road that you've seen head coaches be when they go around on the spring speaking tour every single year. He's going to weigh those factors, and he wants to be considered in the conversation of the Ryan Days, the Nick Sabans of the world. And he wants to, when you potentially talk about a program defining coach, he wants to be in that conversation, whether it's at LSU, Ole Miss, or Florida. So they felt a little bit more uneasiness in the last couple of days, certainly, after it looked like for the last month that LSU was kind of mismanaging this search. Now it's kind of looking like a little bit more of an even playing field. And a lot of Florida fans who have lost confidence in the athletic department's ability to make the right hire and outspend the competition are probably sitting here a little bit anxious right now on a Wednesday afternoon.
When you look at the infrastructure at Florida, from the athletic director to the collective to the revenue sharing to the facilities, like, is there a sense that Florida is with the times? I know that the world is different than it was 10 years ago. LSU's fought that battle. Really, everyone has. Like, how do you feel Florida is set up as far as the infrastructure goes to cultivate a winning football program?
Over the last 2 years, they've become much more, I think, formal and with the times, I guess you could say, with the NIL era, transfer portal era, than they were a couple years ago. I mean, the Jaden Rashada saga was such a stain on Florida's initial NIL efforts. It led to a changing of the name, going from the Gator Collective to Florida Victorious, an ousting of several people involved in that. And they really have more qualified people in charge now who understand the market, work with NIL, work with boosters, donors, and help provide NIL opportunities for athletes. So if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, oh man, this thing needs a lot of work. But right now it's in line. And now, are they as a top 5 NIL collective? Are they with the Oregons and the Ohio States of the world? No, but they're in the top 15. They're able to compete annually for players. They've done a good job with revenue sharing. There's a lot more continuity and cooperation between Florida's athletic department, the head coach, and the booster collective. They're all on the same page. And I do think that it's worth noting that you had seen a desire to invest in the football program wane a little bit as the results were not there during the Napier era. A lot of those boosters have come back on board, from what I've heard, have promised significant 7-figure sums, so that whoever is the head coach, which they, from what I talked to, most likely want it to be Lane Kiffin, there's no concern that he won't have the resources in Gainesville to be able to do what he did in Oxford, land top 5 transfer portal classes for each of the last 4 years. And they've tried to sell his camp on you will be in one of the most talent-rich states, just like Louisiana has done, I'm sure. You be in one of the most talent-rich states in the country where the high school recruiting will be a lot better and easier for you than it was in Oxford. So they've figured that piece out. Even if the Rashada thing is what a lot of people think of when they think of the NIL efforts at Florida, it's a lot more professional than it was just 2 years ago.
What's the confidence level in Gainesville now? And I guess to piggyback on that question, like, do you think that Lane Kiffin will be the next coach at Florida?
I think there's a really solid chance. I put it at 70% earlier today. I think that is absolutely a realistic possibility. Now, things can change. Get back to me tomorrow and I may give you a different percentage. I think that there's a lot of confidence. They've identified him as being the guy for not just the past month. You go back to last year when these conversations about Billy Napier were ongoing. Many people were floating the name Lane Kiffin. Florida's athletic department has come around. They're largely in favor of it happening, and they have confidence that it's going to happen. I think that the athletic department also views it as the safest hire that Florida could make because, there's always a revisionist history in college football. But in 4 years, if Lane Kiffin doesn't work out at the University of Florida, no one's going to sit there, or if they do, they're incorrect. No one's going to sit there and say, well, this is a bad hire. It's not a bad hire whatsoever. It's probably the safest one you could make, where if it just doesn't work out, no one's blaming the athletic department unless there's a drop-off in resources or something else happens. So my confidence level, like I said, is 70%. Also, I think it's factored in that Florida hasn't really, if they do have one privately, it hasn't come out publicly. No one really knows what Florida's backup plan is, which, like I said, is kind of a precarious position to be in because you've put all your chips into one basket. And if you don't get your main guy, you're going to have to pivot here right before early signing day or potentially after early signing day and make another hire. And I think most people are so invested in Kiffin that if it's not him, they're going to be disappointed either way. Even if you land a Lincoln Riley or, someone like a Cliff Kingsbury or one of the top coordinators out there like Will Stein or Glenn Schumann, most people are so invested and have printed shirts and started talking about, oh, we're getting Kiffin. And if it doesn't happen, they're going to be disappointed. And if it's a coordinator, they're going to have to be what they have been for the past decade. They're going to have to stay patient rather than being immediately re-energized by having a guy, a 50-year-old Lane Kiffin here to try and, quote-unquote, save this program.
Feels like the folks in Gainesville and the folks in Baton Rouge are feeling very similar about everything that's going on here. They don't hear a lot of backup plans. I hear a lot of confidence, and we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. Graham Hall covers the Gators for the 24/7 Sports Network. Good enough to give us some time here on this Wednesday. Thanks, Graham.
Pleasure's all mine. Y'all take care out there.
Sure will. It's interesting that you hear him talk and you listen to the folks out of Baton Rouge, and everybody's kind of got their thoughts on it, and nobody is rubber stamping anything. It feels like the confidence level in Gainesville and Baton Rouge is pretty high. It feels like the tension in Oxford is extremely high, and I don't know. It just feels like it's untenable in Oxford unless he just wakes up one morning and goes, I'm staying at Ole Miss, baby, and then signs a contract. The longer it drags on, the worse things feel in Oxford based on everything I'm listening to and reading there from northern Mississippi. Interesting perspective from Gainesville. It's What If Wednesday. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Go by and see them. Airline at Piku. If you're looking to rent for Thanksgiving next week, maybe for Christmas coming up in a little bit over a month, going on a family vacation, don't want to put the miles on your ride, but you'd like to get behind the wheel of a Genesis, it's a great opportunity. I promise you'll be impressed. It is a luxury brand at a reasonable price, and you'll sense that luxury brand, style, comfort, features, all that if you rent a Genesis from the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on Airline at Piku, but you can check out that entire inventory right there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's a great and useful website. It's got the inventory there. It's got all the pictures, all the bells and whistles, even pricing as well. So reach out there at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Go see them. Airline at Piku. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pool. Shout out to the folks at Renaissance. Got a lot to do moving forward here on the rest of the show. Saints and Brandin Cooks have parted ways. They've also made a move at wide receiver a little bit earlier. I want to talk about the money aspect of this head coaching hire for LSU, Lane Kiffin or not. J.D. Pickell is going to be with us coming up at 2:15. Got SEC football power rankings to get to. Might get in some LSU basketball from last night. A real thrill for me to be on the call with Chris Blair courtside last night. First time I had been involved in basketball. A little different animal than baseball. A lot of downtime in baseball, kind of chatting. And basketball, you got something to say, you better get it said before the ball crosses half court again. So it was fast-paced. It was a lot of fun, and LSU got a win over Alcorn last night. So we may get to some of that as we move on, but right now it's kind of all coaching search all the time. We'll get to some Saints coming up in 10 minutes. Right now, though, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, let's start it off. Well, I guess more Lane Kiffin talk. What if Kiffin would have been here as Coach O's OC? Do we still win in 2019 with the talent that we had here?
It's interesting because obviously the first OC hire was Matt Canada, and it was a disaster. Yeah. I think Matt Canada's a pretty good offensive coach. He was an NFL offensive coordinator. He was the National Assistant of the Year at Pittsburgh before he came to LSU. Like, he's had success. He and Ed Ogeron did not jive. They got into a screaming match apparently at the halftime of the Troy game. He was told not to use any more motion, which was like the main pillar of the Canada offense. They lost to Troy that night. So that just kind of went sideways. But, like, yeah, the dominoes that had to fall, like Ensminger had to go in, and he did some things well. And then you had Joe Brady being brought in because Ensminger didn't know the spread. So, like, to tell you, like, a long story short answer to this, if Kiffin comes in and is able to run his offense, like, LSU's offense would have been really, really good.
Yeah.
But how long would Lane Kiffin have been here? If he gets that LSU talent and then he puts a bunch of points on the board for 2 years, like, he's going to get a head coaching job. I can't put those years together, like, what job would have come open, but, like, he would have left pretty quickly to become a head coach. It would have been like his stay at Florida Atlantic, where he was there for 3 years, won 2 conference championships, and then jumped to take the head coaching job at Ole Miss. He would have been here for a couple of years and then would have gone and taken probably another SEC head coaching job. So, yeah, it probably derails 2019. It almost certainly derails 2019.
Well, speaking of taking a head coaching job, does he take over as head coach in 2022? If Lane Kiffin was still here, obviously.
I don't think you would have been here still. Yeah. And maybe O doesn't get fired. Like, I don't know. It's tough. Like, I guess that's the point of the exercise. Yeah. I think the answer is no. I think the answer is if Lane Kiffin comes here with Ed Ogeron, that he eventually gets another head coaching job and doesn't come back here. Yeah. But that's my guess.
Okay, so what if Lane goes to Florida?
I think that's really good for Florida. I think that's a really good fit there, for that awful term that I hate, because I think he's a good fit everywhere. But Florida demands offense. Like, it's just something that's in their DNA because of Urban and Spurrier. So I think that he would win there. I think he's a really good coach, and I think he's going to win and score points wherever he goes right now. Ole Miss, Florida, LSU. But if you're going to what if he goes to Florida, I think Ole Miss takes a big step back. People in Oxford will not say that. They'll say the Grove Collective is great. We have a really good alignment here. Our athletic director is awesome. Our fan base is bought in. If Lane leaves and spurns us, then we're going to galvanize even more funds and we'll be even more together. Fact of the matter is that no one has done what Lane Kiffin has done. And that just means it's going to be really difficult for the next guy to step in and keep that up. Oh, yeah. I didn't say that Ole Miss would go back into the dark ages. Wouldn't say they go right back to the end of the Ogeron era, the end of the Nutt era, the Matt Luke era. But they're going to take a step back. They're not going to be a 10-win program year in and year out without Lane Kiffin, in my opinion. And if LSU doesn't get Lane Kiffin, like, you're going to have to go find somebody else. And it's, I'm sure, a position that LSU understands it can find itself in. But I feel like there's a lot of confidence in the purple and gold right now that this is going to be the number one target, and this is the guy that they want to bring in. So I don't have a good answer for who LSU would go to next, but I think if you went to Florida, that would hurt Ole Miss badly. It would help Florida a lot, and LSU would be scrambling a little bit.
It's funny how we just had the Florida guy on. It's kind of the same thing going on. Like
Yes.
LSU feels, we're going to get him. We're so confident. He just said the same thing about Florida, how they feel so confident that they're going to get Lane Kiffin as well, too. So, but in the end of the day, what if Lane stays at Ole Miss instead?
He's going to have to mend some fences. He needs some PR.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're going to have to get a contract worked out that says you can't do this in November anymore.
Yes.
But if he stays at Ole Miss, they'll be really good. They'll be really good. He's got a good thing going there. And I think that they've got a lot coming back for next year's team that would likely come back to play for him.
Yeah.
I don't see, a coordinator that's immediately going to jump. And so I feel like LSU and Florida will kind of have to tuck their tails a little bit and go figure something else out. But I think Ole Miss becomes a national player if Lane Kiffin stays there for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you got to. The proof is in the pudding. So what if Brian Kelly shows up to his son's senior night? How loud will the boos be?
They would be significant. They would be significant.
I'm going to boo through the TV.
That's an amazing what if, not one I had considered at all. Kenzel has made some comments in Twitter DMs to some Barstool personalities.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that he was a senior on this team. Obviously, he doesn't play, but that would be something if Kenzel Kelly went out there and then Brian Kelly was out there at midfield, like in a green polo. Who's Western Kentucky? So yeah, green polo, and that would be something else. Something tells me you wouldn't have a Kenzel jersey on with the visor. That would be.
Hey, if Brian Kelly, if he was really down for the cause, he's going to show up and he's going to have like a Ellis, like this, whatever you want on the sideline, you got to show up. Same thing. And when they boo you, you wave at the crowd. Just wave at the crowd. Like if he was true to his colors, you got to wave at the crowd.
In the Bayou 4 chat, Brian Burgess says, what if LSU men's basketball doesn't make the NCAA tournament? Will man lose his job? There's pressure on you to win. That's 4 years. That's enough time to find a team to make the NCAA tournament. So they're scoring a lot of points right now. Mike Nwoku looks really good on the block. I like the way De'Don Thomas plays at point guard. Their defense was bad last night. Their rebounding was bad last night. But they got to the foul line, which they've done a lot. They're overwhelming terrible teams right now. Like Alcorn State's terrible, and they overwhelmed them last night. But if you don't get it to the finish line here and get into the tournament, that's. I don't think anybody in that basketball program would look at you and say, 4 years is not enough time to get things figured out. This is the first year they've had a significant financial contribution. And I think if they got a significant financial contribution every single year, the expectations should be higher. I think he was playing with a lesser stack of chips than most of the teams in the SEC the last couple of years. It's closer this year. I'm hopeful they can get it done. But you're not learning anything right now when they've got Nwoku going out there and scoring 29 points on a bunch of 6'6", 180-pound guys.
Yeah.
Like he had 70 pounds on 2 of the post players from Alcorn last night.
That's crazy.
It's very difficult for me to sit here and break down that game when it's not a fair fight. I told this to Chris on the broadcast last night. It's like there's a reason boxing and wrestling have weight classes.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Because you send a 6'10", 270 guy down there, 260 guy down there to face somebody that's 6'6", 195, which Alcorn had. It's like, well, that's not good enough to play any defense. And conversely, he went 12 of 15 and scored 29 points, which is what he should do.
So Hunt, tell me this real quick. What is a successful season for this basketball team this year? In your eyes?
Make the tournament.
Make the tournament? Okay.
Make the tournament. I mean, that's not like some sort of breakthrough. It's not you're not raising a banner, but if you're looking at, okay, that's a nice year. You get an 11 seed, you go play 18 league games, go, 7 and 11 in the league and get a 10 seed or 11 seed.
Okay.
Then play somebody tough, a 7 or 8 seed in the first round, 6 or 7 seed in the first round. That's a reasonable go at it.
Yeah.
In a good league. The good thing is, I got a break here, but a good thing is the SEC is not playing very well in November. I looked up at about December 10th or 12th last year, and I went, holy smokes. The SEC was beating Kansas and Gonzaga and Duke and Louisville, and they were just blitzkrieging people.
Yeah.
And they're not this year. Like Michigan State punked Kentucky last night.
Kentucky.
You saw Florida go out and get beat in Vegas by Arizona.
Yeah. We'll see Bama tonight too.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, Kentucky got beat by Louisville. Like it's it doesn't look to be as tough, and that's to be expected. Last night, A&M with a new coach was on the ropes against Winthrop. There's a 3 in the air to beat them. Arkansas was at home. Didn't
they lose? Arkansas lost?
No, Arkansas barely won. They had Winthrop had a 3 in the air to beat them. Montana had a lead on A&M with less than a minute to have to go, and both teams ended up winning, but you get the point. Like, the league's not playing as well, which is good to hear. All right, let's come back and finish with some Saints talk next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com. How about under the tree on Christmas, a design for a brand new pool, or just the opportunity to design the pool of your dreams? Joey Blanchard and the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools are happy to help you out with that. Joey's done it for dozens and dozens of people in the Baton Rouge area. He's a local company. He's the owner. You work with him, the owner of the company, start to finish. The consultation, the design, the dig, the fill, the finish. He's there for all of it. And this software that he's got on the design of these pools is so incredible to look at, to scale. You can put that outdoor kitchen in it, no matter what type of pool you're looking for. Big, huge, sprawling pool, little big cocktail pool, whatever the case may be. Joey can help you out at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Check him out online, builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Saints and Falcons coming up this weekend from the Dome. Saints made a little bit of a move today. According to Nick Underhill, NewOrleans.football, the Saints and Brandin Cooks mutually agreed to part ways. Cooks will now be a free agent. We thought Brandin Cooks may have been a target for some at the trade deadline. We know that the Saints were looking to offload anyone that they could. They took a bag of footballs for Trevor Penning, a 6th-round pick in the next year's draft. So obviously there were just no suitors at all for Brandin Cooks. So they couldn't offload him. This is one that was easy to see for me. I did not understand this signing at all when it happened. None, zero, zip. They already had Chris Olave, a shorter, quick receiver. They already had Rashid Shaheed, a shorter speed receiver. Mason Tipson on the roster as well for cheap. Like, to sign him for a 2-year deal worth $13 million made no sense to me whatsoever. And now you look at what the Saints are trying to do offensively, and you see that they are building for the future. Cooks is a win-now piece, unless you find him to be significantly advantageous as a leader to young players on the offense as Kellen Moore tries to install an offense. But I look at this and I go, okay, you see the trade deadline comes and goes. You see Rashid Shaheed move on to Seattle. You think maybe Brandin Cooks' usage rate goes up, his productivity goes up. Instead, he saw his lowest snap percentage of the year. He only played half the snaps in that game, and quickly he was surpassed by Devon Vele, who was in for over 86% of the snaps. That, to me, is the direction the Saints need to go. You don't need to give more snaps to a washed up is strong. He may not play again, but you're a guy who's well past his prime in Brandin Cooks. See what you've got in Devon Vele, who you traded a draft choice for. Put Mason Tipton out there, who's still really cheap and young, and see if he can make some plays on the outside like he's done in a couple of Augusts in a row. No one needs to see Brandin Cooks trying to win on the outside for this Saints organization moving forward. If he can find his way onto another roster, great. If he can't, it is what it is. You've got some young guys you want to look at. Olave is healthy and out there. I mentioned Vele, I mentioned Tipton. You're going to have to add to this position group, absolutely, whether that's an early pick in the draft, find some coins in the free agent couch cushion, one way or another. But Cooks doesn't fit in to the Saints' plans. We talk all the time about the next Saints great team, the next great Saints team, and which of these players has a chance to be on it. Brandin Cooks, no chance to be on the next great Saints team. Certainly not a productive piece to it. So you move on from him. The dead cap hit next year is negligible. It's like $3.2 million. Is that ideal? No, it was a bad contract when you signed it. But is it in any way is it going to stop you from doing anything next year? No, it was just a misfire, bad fit, and you move on from it. But again, I hated the sign, so that's a bad thing that you did back in the offseason. But I like the thought. Like, okay, move on. You did this on the field last week with Vele playing almost 90% of the snaps and Cooks playing half. Just move on to the young guys and see what you got. This is an exploratory time. There is 0% of this organization that needs to explore Brandin Cooks. You drafted him. You had him. He toured the league. He came back. You know what he is. He's not helping. Get rid of him. That's fine. See what you got with these guys moving forward on this Saints roster. I realize that having a veteran receiver may be thought as a help to a rookie quarterback. I don't think in this case when you've got other guys who can do what Brandin Cooks can do. Like, I don't see any reason why Mason Tipton can't fill the role that Brandin Cooks played. Devon Vele is just a different type of receiver who may be able to help you. So diversify your receiving core, see what you got in the youth, and see just how urgent your need is. If you feel like, because you're picking, hypothetically, 6th in the draft, like, who's the best wide receiver available right there? Like, is that what you want to do if Shuck proves he shows you some things down the stretch here? This is a positive for the Saints to move on. The signing was a negative. It was a miss by Mickey Loomis in this front office. Surprise, surprise. But you move on. No harm, really. No awful foul. You weren't going to be good this year anyway. Move on with a new crop of wide receivers. You'll get Polk back next year, so that's part of your plans as well. No more Brandin Cooks in New Orleans. All right, if you're looking for Saints coverage, find it Hunt on Saints. Spent the first 30 minutes of the show talking Lane Kiffin. I played the sound from the teleconference. You can find that at Hunt on LSU. Graham Hall covers Florida for Gators 24/7. He was with us talking Lane Kiffin from the Gainesville perspective. A lot of confidence down there. You can catch that at Hunt on LSU as well. Money's a big deal. This is not even a Lane Kiffin thing, just a head coaching thing. What should LSU spend? I'll talk about that after SportsCenter.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Our post is live on Instagram and on Facebook. Go to 1045 ESPN's Facebook and or Instagram page and look at the video of me hitting a golf shot there at Swing Easy Golf Club. I'm going to be there on Sunday, hitting as many golf shots as I've got to hit on the 7th hole at Pebble Beach, which is about 103 yards, until I make a hole-in-one. Your job is to jump in and guess how many shots that's going to take me. You can win a free swag bag from 1045 ESPN. You can win hoops tickets from 1045 ESPN. You can win 2 weeks, maybe 2 hours at Swing Easy Golf Club if you win. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook, and guess how many shots. The guesses are low. A lot of 100, 200, 300s. This may take 3,000 shots. I don't know. But I'll be there on Sunday, 11 o'clock. You can watch it live on our YouTube channel and win if your guess is the closest. It's Swing Easy Golf Club on Seagan at Perkins. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com. It's Swing Easy Golf Club, swingeasygcbr.com.